All right, gentlemen, this is Dr. Vella. I am here giving a screencast of Hamlet's first soliloquy. This is going to be one of a series of soliloquies that I present over the course of our study of this play, in which I try to help you guys understand some basic aspects of this play and try to do some close readings of some of the more challenging passages. So, what I'm going to focus on today is Hamlet's first soliloquy, which happens in scene 2, act 1, and is a famous soliloquy and is one that deserves, further scrutiny. So, we are on page 1708 in our Norton. We know that this starts as a soliloquy because down here at line 128, we see that everybody exits but Hamlet. So Hamlet is alone on stage, and he begins a soliloquy, which is remarkable both for what it contains as well as what it leaves out. So we begin by looking at Hamlet starting by saying that he wishes that his too solid flesh would melt. This is the first time among several in which Hamlet begins to think about his own death and the decay of his own body. And we now move to the next page where Hamlet continues by saying that he wishes this solid flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew. And one thing that we can notice about that right here is that by Hamlet's solid flesh becoming liquid and becoming like a dew, that he seems to be punning here on the French word for goodbye, which is adieu. And so when he resolves into a dew, it sounds like he's resolving into a goodbye. This is one of, Hamlet's many instances of wordplay here. We saw that already in the previous scene where he puns on the word son, both the sun in the sky and the son of a father. And we'll see this as a regular characteristic of Hamlet's language. So, in addition to that, we see that he wishes that God had not made a law against self-slaughter. Self-slaughter is, of course, another way to refer to suicide. So one thing that's notable about that, and you see that I have noted there, is that this is an indication of Hamlet's moral idealism, that he is in fact a moral character. He acknowledges a moral law. He sees that God has a law and that he's not going to kill himself precisely because there is such a law against it. So I think it's notable there that we see Hamlet invoking a moral universe and acknowledging it and abiding by it. Now, again, he starts a sentence with "oh," as an indication of his emotional state, and now it's a direct address to God. And he says, "How weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable seem to me all the uses of this world." And I note here that I think this is one of the first indications we see of Hamlet's melancholy, what we might nowadays call a kind of depression, where the world just doesn't seem to offer him anything. He just doesn't find anything valuable in it. Nothing to him seems like it has meaning or purpose. And it's interesting, of course, there that he uses the word seem, because we saw him jump on Gertrude's seam in the prior scene. And so when he refers to not what seems to be, but what is, and here he uses the word seem to refer to how the world appears to him. But again, he's not saying that the world is weary, stale, and flat and unprofitable, but that it just seems that way to him. So it's almost as if he knows that his state of mind is kind of obscuring or blinding him to the way the world actually is. So he moves on now to develop a metaphor about the world seeming to him like an unweeded garden, where things rank and gross in nature possess it merely. It's also interesting to notice that that garden metaphor seems to return to Hamlet's desire to be resolved into a dew. Of course, a dew is what you would find in a garden in the morning. So, but now he moves on to talk specifically about what it is that's upsetting him so much. And what's upsetting him so much is the fact that his father is now just 2 months dead. Not so much as two, in that his mother has already remarried. He begins some classical comparisons and allusions. He says that his father was like Hyperion, a figure of beauty, and his uncle Claudius is like a satyr, which is a man-goat, a disgusting and kind of lustful creature. He refers to the way his father would protect and care for his mother, Gertrude, such that he wouldn't even let the winds of heaven visit her face too roughly. He would protect her face even from air that was moving too roughly. And now Hamlet here, again, addresses someone that's not there. He addressed God. Now he's addressing heaven and earth. Must I remember? It's clearly these memories of his father, these memories of his father and mother together that are just torturing him. He feels overwhelmed by these memories. And he remembers the way his mother would hang on his father, hang on her as if the appetite grew by what it fed on, meaning the more his mother loved Hamlet's father, the more she wanted him. So it seems like from all indications there was a real love there between Gertrude and King Hamlet. And now, within a month, and again he returns to memories. Let me not think on it. Again, these memories are just driving him crazy. And now, frailty, thy name is woman. A beast that wants discourse of reason would have married longer. Notice here that all of Hamlet's anger and disappointment is directed at his mother. He doesn't like Claudius. It's clear that he thinks Claudius is a lesser man compared to his father. But Claudius is not the target of Hamlet's emotions and his outrage in this soliloquy. The outrage is all directed at Gertrude. How could she do this? How could she follow my poor father's body, he says, and then marry my uncle? And again, another classical allusion. Claudius is no more like King Hamlet than Hamlet himself is to Hercules. And again, returning to she married. Most wicked speed to post with such dexterity to incestuous sheets. So, of course, it's a quasi-incest, but, in Hamlet's mind, it's, the bed of his father is now being occupied by his father's brother. But we also notice at the close of this soliloquy that Hamlet recognizes that this whole situation cannot come to good. It is not good, and it cannot come to good. But even though it breaks his heart, he must hold his tongue. And you might find that line puzzling because Hamlet certainly used his tongue as a weapon in the last scene where he attacks things that are said to him by both Claudius and Gertrude. But notice that he didn't say anything in that scene about their marriage, about what he refers to as their over-hasty marriage. So even though he is kind of speaking his mind to some extent, he's not really letting everyone know what's most on his mind, which is this over-hasty marriage. The fact that his mother has so thoroughly betrayed the memory of his father that she is now, within 2 months, married with his father's brother, King Claudius. So there we have Hamlet's first soliloquy. I think it's notable for a number of key ideas, namely his desire for his life to end, his recognition of a moral order in the universe that is now being disrupted because of this marriage that cannot come to good. We see Hamlet's melancholic state of mind, his emotional state, and we also see that the primary target of this soliloquy is not Claudius, It is Hamlet's mother, Gertrude. It is woman, and what he sees as the frailty of a woman in marrying a new man so soon after the death of a noble man. All right, I hope that was helpful. This will be the first installment in a series of screencasts about Hamlet.